All right, Moon and Venus. This is an interesting combination, both conjunctions within the chart, oppositions within the chart, as well as when Venus transits your moon sign. They can both be benefic planets, especially when the moon is moving towards full. The moon is more of a benefic planet, and they can be supportive of each other in that way. And those of you who are scratching your head and saying, well, how do I know if the moon is waxing or waning? I mean, it's going towards full or it's moving back towards new. Just go back a few videos on this channel and find how is the moon waning or waxing, and it will describe that for you. But the moon, again, this idea of feeling, emotion, sense of self, individualized sense of self, your personality, your history. The moon is often related to the past, and they say that the moon is the realm of our ancestors, which are the things that have come before us. Venus is related to beauty. Venus is related to luxury. Venus is related to artistic skill and things of this nature. So when we get Moon and Venus together, this shows a consciousness directed towards, in a beneficial sense, luxury, refinement, comfort, and ease. So if you get a person with Moon and Venus together in their chart, they're going to be really fixated on luxury, refinement, comfort, and ease. That's what they're going to feel comfortable with. That's going to feel natural to them. You get them together with like a Moon-Saturn person who is more focused on the problems in life. That's going to be a difficult thing to reconcile, because the Moon-Saturn person is going to be more focused on their liabilities, where the failures are, and the Moon-Venus person is going to be saying, yes, but what about love and refinement? And they're not going to understand each other. So we have to remember that the combinations of Moon with another planet, that shows what your consciousness, what your soul, what your personality is, what you relate more to. And if you're with someone who doesn't have that combination, they're not going to understand each other. In the same way you get someone with Moon and Saturn and Rahu and Mars together, well, that can give kind of an aggressive, cruel temperament. But we have to remember that the moon has no enemies. So that Saturn, that Mars, is not necessarily starving that moon because it doesn't have any enemies, as per the Logitati Avashtas, but it's conditioning that person's consciousness in a cruel way, which means they'll be used to more fighting and struggle. And if that fight and struggle isn't there, it's going to feel really weird to them. So they'll probably pick fights and create struggle. When you have Moon and Venus, that's a person who's very much identified with love and refinement and comfort, as we mentioned, which means that they're going to feel really uncomfortable if a fight breaks out or if someone challenges them. So they might not deal too well in those kinds of circumstances. So if your partner has Moon and Venus together and you're more of an aggressive person, it's going to make sense that you don't be aggressive towards them, because they're not going to respond well. They don't know what to do with it. And we'll find this to be true with any of the combinations with planets with the moon. But what are the good things of Moon and Venus? Well, that gives great capacity for imaginative, creative skill. It gives a great sense of refinement, a great eye for beauty and form. It allows a person to be very nurturing and comforting to others, but typically when it serves their purpose. That's sort of the dark side of this Moon-Venus combination, is that they may understand what it takes to make you feel comfortable and to bring you a sense of nurturing, but since Moon is actually an enemy to Venus, if it's going to get in the way of their own comfort or their own capacity, they might not necessarily be as committed as you would initially think they are. So Moon and Venus can very much enrich the lives of others, but only if their own lives are enriched. So a Moon and Venus person really has to take care of their own needs, but oftentimes with Moon and Venus, they'll look for those needs to be taken care of by those people around them, or through luxuries, or through expensive, refined things. So the difficulty with Moon and Venus is learning to get that sense of emotional contentment and fulfillment without having to be dependent on a luxury or having to be dependent on people around them. And that's a hard one, typically, for Moon and Venus. So conjunction-wise, that moon is starving Venus, as per Logitati Avashtas. And that's bad. But of course, it's not as bad as, say, Saturn starving the moon, or so on. But it still causes problems because there's an over emphasis on love and refinement and beauty. And when that's not there, the person can't handle it. So we need to keep this in mind. And also, the person will often feel that when it comes to relationships, that maybe the relationships aren't living up to their expectations. So there's too much expectations for love and relationships to fulfill them when really they need to fulfill themselves, which is often why, even when the moon is with benefics, except Moon and Jupiter, as you know, I love that, the person, it's often better for that moon to be by itself. You want to have aspects to the moon, sure, that's going to be helpful, but having planets with the moon, whatever that planet represents, it's going to make them really identify with that thing, and if that thing is not there, they're going to feel weird. With Venus, it's love, refinement, and beauty. So if there's no love and refinement and beauty, they're not necessarily going to handle life very well. With Saturn, if there's not suffering, something going wrong, a problem in their person's life, they're going to feel that's weird. So if you put a Moon-Saturn person in a good situation, that's going to make them uncomfortable because they're expecting things to go wrong. But we'll get to that with Moon and Saturn. So ideally, when it comes to the Moon and Venus, this is great for artistic sensibilities, a sense of taste and refinement, bringing comfort and nurturing to others. Whenever you have Venus transiting over your Moon, wonderful time to go on vacations or to do things that are going to make you feel like royalty, or purchasing luxuries or indulging in luxuries. You're going to feel more emotionally sensually fulfilled. And by sensually, I don't mean sexually, although that can happen too. I mean having your senses fulfilled by the things of the world. We have to remember that Venus is the guru to the demons, the Asuras. And that doesn't mean that it's demonic in the sense of, the Exorcist, but Venus rules over the material things of the world, the transient, the things that rise and fall. And when Moon and Venus is together, there's an emphasis on gaining satisfaction through those things that rise and those things that fall, the demonic aspect of things. So again, we have to be very careful and cautious with that. But you've got your Moon in a sign, Venus comes and transits over the Moon, wonderful time for indulgence, extravagant sexual activity, rewarding the senses, things of this nature. But you also have to be cautious to have moderation in that regard, particularly if in your birth chart you already have a conjunction or opposition of Moon and Venus.